Our next bit of movie news today is this is kind of a bittersweet story. There was an interview with George Lucas very recently, and he kind of opened up. He was being interviewed for kind of a biography, if you will, and he kind of opened up about why, or rather, what his personal decisions for selling Lucasfilm to Disney were. I'd love to jump in the article for a second. It's not a very long article. However, the quote from George Lucas is quite lengthy. So just bear with me for a moment because he says some really poignant things here. George Lucas says, quote, at that time, at the time that, he sold Lucasfilm to Disney, at that time I was starting the next trilogy. I talked to the actors and I was starting to gear up. I was also about to have a daughter with my wife. It takes about 10 years to make a trilogy. Episodes 1 through 3 took from 1995 to 2005. And in 2012, I was 69 years old. So the question was, why am I going to keep doing this the rest of my life? Or rather, sorry, the question was, am I going to keep doing this for the rest of my life? Do I want to go through this again? Finally, I decided I'd rather raise my daughter and enjoy life for a while. I could not have sold Lucasfilm and gotten somebody to run the productions, but that isn't, or sorry, he could have not sold Lucasfilm and gotten someone to run the productions, but that isn't retiring. On The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I tried to stay out of the way, but I couldn't. I was there every day. Even though the people were friends of mine and they did great work, it wasn't the same as me doing it. It was like being once removed, or like one step removed. I knew that probably wouldn't work again, that I'd be frustrated, but I'm one of those micromanager guys. I can't help it. So I figured I would forego that, enjoy what I had, and I was looking forward to raising my daughter. Also, I wanted to build a museum, which I'd always wanted to do. So I was thinking, if I don't do this now, I'll never get that done. I've spent my entire life creating Star Wars, 40 years, and giving it up was very, very painful, but it was the right thing to do. I thought I was going to have a little bit more time I thought I was going to have a little bit more to say about the next three because I had already started them, but they decided they wanted to do something else. Things don't always work out the way you want. Life is like that. And I apologize. It's a lengthy quote from George Lucas as to kind of the reasons why he decided to sell Lucasfilm and kind of stay in that life as a family man. And he knows himself so well that he can't distance himself from certain things. So if he completely severs the ties, and I can relate. I'm very much the same way. If I'm loosely connected with something, I'm fully connected with something, right? That's just my nature. That's how I am. If I'm doing something, I'm all in on it. Evidence of this was brought up earlier on this channel when I was in Universal Studios. I wanted to make kind of a video blog as to, video journal entries or, whatever, of our experiences at Universal Studios. Can we go there and do it safely? If you want to watch the video, if you want to hear my thoughts on it, go look it up. It's in the channel. I think it's under the editorial playlist. However, when I'm there in Universal Studios, I can't stop having fun for a moment and start working. Those are two very different parts of my brain. So whatever it is that I'm doing in the moment, I'm doing that. That's what I'm engaged in. If I'm there to work, I can't have fun. If I'm there to have fun, I can't work. It's just how my brain works. It's how I'm wired. It's how I'm programmed. So to hear George Lucas go through all of these different steps and for him to realize the things that are really, truly important to him and to sacrifice his company. No, when I say sacrifice, it's not like he's diminishing the quality of it, although there can be those discussions as well. It was that he was letting go of something that he felt so passionately about and loved and built literally from the ground up. He built an empire from the ground up, and in order to have something that he felt was greater, he had to let go of this empire. And how difficult and how hard and struggling of a decision that must have been for him. Lloydie, You are possibly, maybe not in all actuality, but quite possibly the biggest Star Wars fan I've ever met in my life. And I have been to Star Wars Celebration. So suck on that for a moment.
Okay. Wow. I didn't realize this.
Like, how does this news strike you? Like, does this warm your heart? Does it make you sad? Like, it's a bittersweet note to talk about, but what are your thoughts on this?
Bittersweet is right. It's a mix of emotions for me on this because Star Wars is the reason whenever I go to the cinema, whenever I'm there to see a movie, when I walk into the movie theater, I get the chills like every single time. There is a bit of me that's like, I'm going to go and see it. And even if the movie is like one of the worst movies that I've ever seen, just that moment of walking in there is still really exciting to me. And, I credit George Lucas with that. He created this wonderful, wonderful thing. But you are right in when you say that sometimes you need someone else to come in. Sometimes you need to step away from your thing because when you are a control freak, as he admits he is, then sometimes there's no one to tell you no when you're having the bad idea. Like the good idea he had was definitely Star Wars. And in the early days, when he didn't have, when he hadn't made all the money, he had to listen to other people. He had to listen in the test screening when people said, George, this movie doesn't make sense. And actually, part of the credit for A New Hope goes to Marcia Lucas, his then wife, who was an exceptional film editor, who basically recut the whole thing and so many things changed. And she made a coherent movie. And he has kind of dined out on that. Now, don't get me wrong, you can't still take away the fact that it was his original idea. But for me, and I hate to say this because he's one of the people I would most love to meet in such an influence on it. And he had a vision for how those three other movies were going to go. But other people decided, actually, you know what, this is a better way. And I honestly think, particularly when The Force Awakens came out, they were proved right. There was another way. There was something to do with this universe that he hadn't thought of. And Mike, we're both improvisers. We know that actually, when we are working together as a collective, we create something that is way bigger than the sum of the parts. And I think if you are a control freak in charge of something for too long, eventually you can suck the life out of it. And he was in danger of doing that with Star Wars. There are some that would argue that maybe he did that with the prequels. But I think he did the right thing. I think he made the right decision. And painful though it is for him, and actually painful though it is to hear him talk about it, I think he played it right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's hard. As you point out, like when you're so closely attached to this thing, it's your baby, it's your thing, and to let go of it means letting go of creative control. To see other people, um, take ownership of the thing that not just that you created, but like how else do you describe a cultural movement? Like he changed the world. He changed
Hmm.
the world. He changed cinema. He changed fandom. He changed how toy sales work. He single-handedly, like even though that wasn't his design, he didn't stop and think, how can more T-shirts in the world be sold? Like that wasn't his motive, but that's the kind of impact that he had. He has impact on billion-dollar companies because of this one idea.
Yeah, and this is the power of an idea, isn't it? I don't wish to retell the same joke, but I'm going to. Whilst by the look of my face, you would not necessarily know that I was around in the 1980s. I'll advertise my moisturizer range later. But in the 1980s, they were talking about the death of cinema, and the thing that was keeping movie theaters open was blockbusters like Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. And then you had George's friend Steven Spielberg doing things like Indiana Jones. And these were the movies that people wanted to go and see because they were exciting, they were an experience, and with the special effects, the like of which had never been seen before. He literally reinvented special effects by setting up his own division. Um, people had to see that at the cinema. There was no way it was ever going to be as impressive on your television as it was seeing that opening shot of A New Hope, where the Star Destroyer comes over you, pretty much over your head
Yeah.
in the movie theater. That was the like of which had never been seen before. And that's the kind of thing that saved cinema. So, like, going back to what we were discussing a few moments ago, is there a future, in movie theaters existing? If people are making the right stuff and you are making the right environment for them, absolutely there is. And I, I think you just because you have had success does not mean you get everything right. And I know people are looked up to so much when they have success in any field, but George Lucas made mistakes as well. I'm sure he would admit at least some of them. And that is where collaborative working comes together. And that is why him passing on Star Wars when he did to Disney was the right call, both for him and then with what Disney did, even if he personally didn't like it. I think for this huge empire that he created, the right calls by and large were made. And I know that will upset some
Well,
Star
I think
Wars
you
fans.
hit the nail on the head there. And just because you've had incredible success does not mean that you always make the right calls. However you phrase that, like, I think that resonates the strongest. And for that reason alone, amongst, obviously many others, he wanted to focus on his family. He's 69 at the time. He was 69 years old. He was raising a daughter. He wants to have those experiences before they're gone. And those are the things you can't get back. He's had his time with Star Wars. Now he wants to have time with his family, and you can't, when you realize that you can't have your cake and eat it too, and you have to make a choice, I can't blame him for that. I can't blame him for that. Anyway, guys, big question for you is, what do you think about the situation with George Lucas? Do you think he was right to sell Star Wars? Do you think he should have held on to it maybe just a little bit longer to see this episode 7, 8, and 9 go through? Do you think Disney should have used his ideas? Where do you sit with this? Jump down to the comment section below. I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share, because that is exactly what Scrooge McDuck would want you to do. DuckTales, woo!